Star Wars entry? No. That was a once in a
1935. The Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Crack of the bat, ding of the bell.
Me and Jamie rocking similar shirts, similar colors. We're a duo.
That's it.
Duo's back after about, well, you don't know this for the audience, but it's been a while, Jamie.
Yeah, we breather between episodes.
That's
Life gets in the way
a little bit. Yeah, this holiday season, getting a little crazy.
So people listen to the show whenever, wherever, however.
I understand, but there are some live listeners,
yes.
and they're wondering where we've been.
Yeah,
We've been busy. It's crazy.
So
busy.
planning, because today, Charles, 33. Yes.
This is the last of the other champions.
This is the last of the other. Well, no, we still got the pigeon racer to do.
We got to go deeper dive to get to those ones. But yes, there are others. That's
so we'll talk about we could do an episode about the disputed champions.
We could do that.
So I want.
There's a lot of other stuff we could cover.
There's a lot of other stuff we will cover.
There's a lot of other stuff we will cover.
Episode number 107 today. There's a lot of things we have covered.
There's a ton of stuff we have covered. This is kind of like the wrap-up show for the 2023 year.
Yes.
It's been a long year. Good year. We've been all over the place.
2023, you're listening whenever. But, so it's people. It's
been a great year, I think, doing the shows, man.
Beyond great.
It's been fantastic. We've been all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We've been all over the place. We've done some great shows. We've
heard from some wonderful people.
Absolutely.
Heard from family members.
Yeah, we got some great new fans on the show and everything, messaging me and all that. It's great.
So, it's just been a riot. We got another Champions Day on the horizon.
Yep, next year.
Maybe some interesting projects to come along with that. I got my fingers crossed. I'm working on some stuff. My goal is to have the Stanley Cup at one of our champion day parties.
Yeah, but we got to win it. The Red Wings got to win it, though.
I don't care.
Yeah, the Red Wings got to do it, man.
All right. That's you.
I thought we've debated this before.
Okay, for you.
I mean, imagine if I don't even know
whoever's holding it at the time.
Yeah, it's like, I don't
Edmonton
know,
Oilers.
The Colorado Avalanche or something, man.
Winnipeg
if they win
Jets.
it, yeah, but some other city wins it.
Anymore.
They're not. I don't want to it's not really our cup.
It is.
It's not our if the Red Wings win it. Like I say, we've had this. I thought we had this debate behind the scenes. It didn't. The last time we debated, there was no resolution, and here we are once again.
But it's my goal. If you're not happy about it, I don't care, because my goal,
half your show you can half hug the cup.
My goal is to have the cup at one of our celebrations.
That'd be cool. I mean,
if
you're able to arrange that, that'd be awesome.
That is my goal.
I mean, it's there's probably going to elicit a little controversy.
Wow.
At least from my end of the table.
All right.
It's just, I mean,
then you don't get to take a picture with it.
Well, maybe I don't want to take my picture with it.
Until the Wings win it, you don't want your picture with it.
It'll be like a picture of my arm, off to the side of the image or something. You know what I mean?
But it's the 35 team is on there.
Yeah,
those are our boys.
We could also do is we could do a road trip and film on location at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto.
That would be fantastic
because they got the cup right there with the 35 Red Wings on it.
That would be wonderful.
We have an agreement. See how easy that is.
I love going to Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto's amazing.
Just give me a reason. We would do
there
that.
We go.
Do you remember the TV show Kids in the Hall?
Totally.
Sketch comedy.
Yeah.
So they filmed in Toronto.
Yeah.
So we would get train tickets. And we, drive over to Windsor and jump on the train, take the train to Toronto. So that's an adventure. You eat wine and cheese. You pack some wine and cheese.
I do that totally.
Eat it on the train.
I love train by train all the time.
And then we spend, a long weekend in Toronto and we get tickets to a filming of Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was cool. So in the shadowy men on the shadowy planet, we're up on a scaffolding, and then there's 3 or 4 you're in a big sound stage, but there are 3 or 4 little pods of stages where they would do the different sketches.
Yeah.
And there's some pre-recorded ones, and they had the pre-recorded ones. They would play them for you, and sometimes they fed into the live ones. It was neat. It was neat to watch it unfold. It was really, really cool. But it was just the train ride to Chicago to do that. Toronto. I would love to.
Be amazing
to do that. Again. And do that to party with the cup.
The cup that's there is, and it would be, it might be
original.
interesting. Yeah, it's the original one, the stub.
Yeah,
it's not the big tall.
Right,
it looks
right.
virtually nothing like the one there is now.
Yeah,
one that they haven't seen it. I've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's just like a stub cup.
I don't know if I got
35
old,
wings around
there.
An
old picture, but yeah.
Well, they added a bunch of collars to it until it got too stacked up, and it was never really made for something to be that tall. So they just traded it out and started fresh with a whole new cup.
Yeah.
But they, I had my picture taken with the regular Stanley Cup when the Red Wings won it back in whatever year that was, 2009. Whatever. They brought that there. I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
They brought this. They had the cup traveled around, and there was a bar in Port Huron that the cup went to.
Yeah.
And the owner and them told me about the cup traveling there, and they're like, "Hey, how would you like to set up and sell some books?" I was brand new into the book industry, right? Just selling. So they had the cup on the back porch. Right. And I was like, this is awesome because there's gonna be a ton of people out there
interested in this topic.
And they're interested in the cup. And I'm like, they're a bunch of Red Wings fans. And maybe I can sell a couple books, And the guy was cool. He was like, because I used to go to the bar every once, kind of all the time, but whatever. I was a fairly regular guy there. And anyways, I set up there and I was selling, just doing all right, selling pretty good. And out of nowhere, there was a guy who was like with the official NHL commission or something.
Yeah.
That's like in charge of like the rules governing the traveling of the cup or whatever.
Yeah.
And he came out there and he looked at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm like selling books, hanging out with the cup,
making copy,
chilling with the Stanley Cup."
Yeah.
My friends were there with me. We're getting,
taking
pictures with it and stuff too. Whenever there's a chance to slip in and get a couple shots.
Yeah.
And anyways, he's like, "You can't sell here." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, you're not allowed to make money selling next to the cup." And I'm like, Says who? Like the owner of the bar.
I was invited.
The owner of the bar said I could set up here, and I'm on the back porch, like probably 8 feet from the cup or something.
Yeah.
And I have a little table. I'm not interfering with the cups, imagery. I'm not the cup's not sitting on my table selling books. I'm off to the side of the room. And the guy's just like, you gotta pack up and leave the deck. And I'm like, I was like, and I go, and what are you gonna do about it if I don't? And he goes, I'm just gonna pull the cup out of the bar, and the guy, the bar owner won't even have the cup here. And I'm just like, that's something. That's something else. And so, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna bring that kind of smoke to the owner because he's bringing all kinds of traffic in. I'm like, so I packed up, but that was just, that was just my little. There's no really moral to this story. Yeah. But I did get some pretty good pictures in front of it though.
When one of the years that they won the cup, DJing at Lipsticks. I was a house DJ at Lipsticks, and Matt Fox on the Man Cave Happy Hour with me was DJing there with me as well. And for whatever reason, I had something else going. I wasn't at the club that night. A bunch of the Wings rolled in a limo with the Stanley Cup, and Matt's like, "Woo!" And it's like I missed it because I wasn't. I wasn't.
It was one your night
I
off.
had some. Yeah, I had something going on, and yeah. So
they got the Iser plan going on, man. They got the Red Wings are building. They just got Patrick Kane today, which is the guy's a star. So he's like, he's a little bit of an aging star, but he's only 35. Who knows, man? Maybe the Wings will bring the cup, and we'll have some. We'll actually have some legit.
Take some pictures with it. Yeah.
Or we go to Toronto and do the old original.
I'm totally down.
And to go along with your kids in the hall. Maybe have you ever watched the Trailer Park Boys?
Oh my God, I love those.
It's my favorite guys of all time.
Let's go have a dart.
Yeah. That they but maybe they're gonna be out there some point, or maybe we go through Toronto and go out to Halifax and see the Trailer Park Boys set. That'd be amazing. Now I'm starting to have visions of sugar plums dance in my head for some stuff like this, but why not? So anyways, we got some. So the viewers that you just want to tune in and see what comes next.
So, but that's my goal. Yeah. We got some things on tap, and definitely some Champions Day celebrations, April 18th every year.
Yeah.
But my goal is to party with the cup at one of our Champion Day celebrations, either this one or the next one, because this is like 89 and 90.
We can always make one out of tinfoil or something.
So
make one out of tinfoil.
Yeah,
or buy like
if you might as well if it's not the Wings Cup that year anyway, it might as well just be a tinfoil cup.
Might as well. All right, might as well. Or a replica, like a little stub one. And what we do is this is what we do.
Somebody told me, "Oh, we got a little replica." I'm like, "That's not."
No, yes, this is me. Hear me out now. You get a little replica, right? This big. You get it for like $15 or whatever, right? And what you do is you have it super close to the camera, and then we're like kind of set back in it. So there's like an optical illusion. It looks like we're standing there next to like a real full-size cup. What do you think?
All right. Yeah. We can just perspective.
There you go.
Yeah.
There we go. Bootleg. Yes.
And
we could even that's that might be an option anyways. We'll file that under options. How's that sound?
All right. What's our option for today? We're like I said, we're at the last of the other champions of 1935.
Yes, we are the last champion on this list is certainly not the least.
No.
Okay. What we're dealing with today,
Grand Master.
Yes, if anybody is listening to this show right
different
now
than a Grand
or in
Wizard.
The future, yes, totally different.
Totally different. Maybe not.
This,
1930s.
No, it's totally different. This right here, this guy right here. I've said this before once or twice, but the same thing applies for this guy here, which is like doing this show at all.
Yeah.
One of like the things I ever wanted, the reasons I even wanted to do this show was to talk about this guy. Right
oh my
here.
Gosh. Okay.
Like this guy is, I have talked
Willis
about
Ward and this guy.
Willis Ward. Exactly. He is one of the people that the reasons I even want to do this show. Like Bucko McDonald is another one.
That was my favorite, one of my absolute favorite segments that we did.
And then
Willis.
And Doug Young is another reason, another guy I wanted to talk about for doing the show. Sid Howe, bringing out the idea that Sid Howe and Gordy are not related. These are a lot of the reasons I want to do the show. But this guy right here, he deserves this. We've said this, but let me just put it like this. If, like we've used this analogy before, if another city wins 3 championships with baseball, football, and hockey, and then they have a boxer of the caliber of Joe Louis, and they have you go all the way down the list. They have a sprinter that can beat Newell, Eddie Tolan. And they have a speedboat king that can beat Garwood, which is basically impossible. But but then you have already it's
a golfer
impossible.
That could
we're being speculative here. We're being super hypothetical.
Yes,
a golfer that can beat
Walter and then
Hagen.
All the way down.
You go all the way down the list towards
you get
32.
To 33.
You get to number 33. We got the guy that is gonna if the impossible has happened.
Yes,
and they've gone through 32 championships to match or beat every one.
Here's the job.
This is the guy.
It's like a tattoo on your face.
This is the guy who's gonna put it over the top. That will make sure that nobody will ever top. What Detroit did. And who are we talking about? Of course, today, Newell Banks.
Newell Banks,
the world champion checkers player.
Okay.
Yes.
Checkers.
Yes.
All right.
And so here's the thing. I will be full disclosure here. I am not a checkers expert.
No.
Right. I know how to play the game.
Is anybody? Newell, apparently.
Newell was for sure.
All right.
And so and we're going to read an article here that talks about that even the writers that covered Newell are like, we don't have any idea what's going on with this game, but we're just writing about it. It's so but this guy right here is we're just like I say, we're not going to go through all that. Like I'm not an expert on the world of checkers or anything. But Newell was at the pinnacle. And the thing is, the question I was asking Sam earlier was, I was saying, let's say you're born with a gift, right? You're born with, we all have gifts and talents, whatever. But Newell was born with the ability to play checkers.
He was born with a special purpose.
He was born with,
it's my special purpose.
Yes. He was born with a gift. And his gift was the ability to slaughter people at checkers. Okay.
All right.
Massacre.
Right.
And so the question becomes, right? Like, the will of God says that you are to maximize the gift that he has given you, right? So what is Newell to do? Is he supposed to go get a job at a factory and just beat the local guys at the factory in checkers or whatever?
Well, that would be sad.
Or how do you monetize your gift of playing checkers? So Newell Banks at 7 years old, he beat somebody for the first time blindfolded. Right?
How do you play checkers blindfolded?
Look, I don't know. All
right.
Okay. I'm like I say, I do not know the ins and outs of this. I'm just going to present, like, I guess you could say we're going to present this information, try to digest it as much as possible, like chew it up like the mama bird, but as much as possible. But the rest is, there's a ton of information on this guy. Okay. There's a ton of stuff. I've not read his books. He's got 3 books. Okay. Including one book where he escalated to such a level that that there was actually other blindfold checkers players, like good ones. Yeah. And there's a book that they published. One of the slides I have, they actually published a book that recorded this event where Newell and this other guy both were blindfolded. It's the 3-book trilogy. Yeah, that one right there. So the third one in the list there, it says Newell versus this other guy, William Ryan, I think it says, blindfold championship. Like two guys sitting there, like, Karate Kid or whatever, like whatever it is, they're doing it blindfolded. Sitting there at a table playing checkers blindfolded. It's a world championship blindfold. But anyways, like this guy's legendary for walking into a room where there's like 100 and something people, and he's just beating all of them blindfolded, and then setting records for like time for like how long it took him to beat them. Like I'll read the statistics, but one of the stats that'll come out is that he averaged like this one match was like 170 people that he beat blindfolded. He averaged like 1 second for every move.
That's like the Queen's Gambit thing.
Yeah, this he's like a prodigy. I mean, he's not like a prodigy. He is a prodigy, and so this guy in his day is actually pseudo famous because he's like, I mean, it's almost like turning like it into like a part, like he's a curiosity, I mean, there's this guy he's just ultra dominant at checkers. But by the way, he's also good at chess. He's ranked one of the top 10 chess players in the world as well.
I was looking for some video of him, and all I'm finding are it's like computer images of his games he's played.
Oh yeah.
So it's not actual footage of him, but it's like a digital board and playing out a game that he had.
And there's a ton of you can deep dive into this guy, man. There's a bunch of articles. There's a bunch of segments on like these people that are into like the history of chess, the history of checkers and stuff, and he pops up on all that stuff. And so there's like one that's like talks about his theory about checkers and chess, and he's got his own words. It's like a huge. I read it today. He's like, the thing he's like, I like chess because it's more about an early and mid game. And then there's a lot of technical stuff that he talks about. He talks about his favorite people that like he learned from, like how to play and stuff. But anyways, like, I mean, this guy is awesome. And one of the stories, we're going to read a quote here or whatever, but one of the great moments, let's just read a quote real quick. We'll read a quote and then I'll get, because he's got this in, like, I wrote this screenplay for this movie, and I can't remember if I did or did not write him in, but he's got a scene, and like we're gonna go through one of this moment he has in Tiger Spring Training in 1935, which is like this. I mean, that's one of my favorite elements of the story.
All these crossovers.
Yeah, the crossovers are just so massive in this story. They all cross over. Like we have a picture of Walter Hagen at a Detroit Tiger Spring Training wearing Tiger gear. I'm not sure if we even showed that on here, but there's that. There's so many crossovers, and the fact that you got the world champion checkers player, we're gonna see show the spring training for the Tigers, but this is the guy. They're like, we got Newell Banks on our side for for our championship list. He's bringing up the caboose, and wait till we get, let's go through it. His statistics are astonishing.
All right, what do we got?
Right, for as far as I know, as far as checkers, there's just a lot of them. So, all right, so this article we're gonna read through. I love this article because the writer is talking about his experience of going to a checkers championship. Okay, he's explaining what a checkers championship is like. Right, for those who have not been to a checkers championship, like I haven't.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Sam, have you been to a checkers championship? No. So nobody here has. So I know maybe the listener or viewer has before, but if you have, this is what it was like in December of 1934 to go to a checkers championship. Okay, so this article was by Bob Murphy, one of our favorites out of the Detroit Times, dated December 8th, 1934. And so the headline of the article is "Professor Learns About Checkers from Banks." And so then of course, Bob Murphy calls himself the professor. So the old professor is sitting around in Dave Harris' joint, blowing a few bubbles and talking about this and that. In walks Bert Walker of the Times. Mr. Walker is all in a hurry and going a lot of places. Mr. Walker blows a bubble with me and then inquires, "Want to go over to the Barnum Hotel and see some fun?" Being the kind of a professor who takes his fun where he finds it, I saw no reason to go to the Barnum. But Mr. Walker insisted, and so to the Barnum we went. On arriving there, I found the whys and wherefores of Mr. Walker's visit. He had been assigned to cover the World Championship checkers match between Newell Banks of Detroit and Asa Long of Toledo. There were some 10 people, including 3 guys who were sleeping with their chins on their stomachs. Mr. Walker immediately went into tantrums. He assured me that in all his long years of covering championship checkers matches, this was by far the largest and most spectacular crowd he had ever seen. Mr. Walker becomes so very excited, he calls back to the office for a photographer or so. I am learning about checkers from Mr. Walker. Outside the Hall of Combat, we met the wife of the champion. They are all after Newell, she confides. He's been champion for 25 years. They're doing everything they can to topple him from the throne. Why? You won't believe it. But they are actually sending all kinds of information to Mr. Long. They've been scouting Newell and his style of play. Nobody has offered to help Newell. All of this is so shocking to the old professor. Not since I used to watch Uncle Zeke and Cousin Ezra spout tobacco juice between moves had I ever seen a checkers game. And here are people talking about scouting the same as they do in football and all such Hashenbosh. Great word.
Hashenbosh.
I am learning about checkers from Mrs. Newell Banks, wife of the champion. In a few minutes, Long retires to the anteroom for a few seconds of rest. Banks comes out to confer with Mr. Walker and give him the play-by-play, or whatever they call it in checkers. Mr. Banks is the Gar Wood of checkers, the Reggie McNamara of the crossboards, the Bill Tilden of his sport. What I'm trying to say is that Mr. Banks is something or other. Any man who reigns supreme in any given sport for 25 years deserves to be classed as tops. Mr. Banks is wearing an eye shade. He describes how he is losing plenty of weight during the grueling grind. Mr. Bank admits he is a little rusty, that they have added more openings. He didn't exactly go into detail, but from a football standpoint, I gathered that the offense was overshadowing the defense. I am learning about checkers from Mr. Newell Banks. Mr. Burt Walker informs Mr. Banks he would like to see them resume play. I would like to go see at least 2 moves, said Mr. Walker enthusiastically, because I must get back to the office within the next 2 or 3 hours. He wants to see 2 moves because he has to get back to the office within 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. I am learning about covering checker championships from Mr. Walker. Banks and Long take their places. I hear Mr. Banks tell Mr. Long it is his move. That brings back sad memories to me. The landlords have said that to me many times, and usually they were a lot more gruff than Mr. Banks was to Mr. Long. Long places his head in his hands. He sits there staring at the board. Mr. Walker moves closer to get a better view. The referee and scorer are crowded around. Mr. Long continues to gaze at the board. Mr. Banks nervously sips ice water from a glass like Harry Kipke and some other of the coaches do during heated moments of a football games. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minutes tick off the clock. Mr. Long is still sitting there with his face in his hands. I am convinced Mr. Long has fallen asleep. I move up and whisper these words to Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker wheels on me and starts shushing. I had committed an unpardonable error. My checker etiquette needed a thorough overhauling after Mr. Walker's shushing subsided. I am learning about checkers from Mr. Long, the challenger, and I still insist he was asleep. Finally, all of Mr. Banks' ice water is gone. He calls for a timer. He wants it known that even he thinks Mr. Long is asleep. But just after Rip Van Winkle's record seemed certain to be broken, Mr. Long roused and moved. Then it was that scenes changed. Mr. Banks placed his head in his hands and started figuring with his chin. Mr. Walker, the checker expert, has moved even closer. His heavy breathing drowned out the snores of the great audience of 10 excited watchers. After an hour and 15 minutes, both Mr. Long and Mr. Banks had moved. Hour and 15 minutes, they each moved once.
Yeah.
I had learned enough about checker championships. I went back to Mr. Harris's place where a fellow could blow bubbles and make moves on as often as he pleased. So this is the kind of writing I love. These guys are the greatest writers.
Yeah.
They're the greatest. Like, he's like dogging this sport, really. And he's like, they moved once and like, this is a big deal. You know, these guys are making their moves. So
where did this appear?
This is Detroit Times, December 8th, 1934.
Times, good stuff.
Detroit Times, awesome. Yeah. So anyways, he didn't talk about, like, you know, he didn't say who the conclusion of the event or anything like this. But like I said, but in every other case, he's, you know, we'll go right here to we'll fast forward just a couple of months into February, because this is where they talk about him as the champion. Right. And this is this is him in Lakeland spring training. This is the moment where he comes down to Detroit Tigers spring training.
Yeah. And him and Walter Hagen are putting on uniforms.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's putting on uniforms. He's just there.
Yeah.
But so check it out. So this is fast forward now. This is Bud Shaver, sports editor for the Detroit Times, writing this article. So it's a big deal. Budd Shaver's writing.
Mm-hmm.
February. I mean, Bob Murphy's a big deal too. He's one of my favorite writers, but Bud Shaver's really big time too. So this is February 24th, 1935. So it's spring training down in Lakeland, Florida. And so this is 1935, right? This is, here we go. So checker champion Banks was encountered in the last place we expected to meet up with a checker champion, and yet he was very much in his element. We discovered him in Munn Park, Lakeland. If you know Lakeland, you know Munn Park. So I actually put a little note in here, i.e. Lakeland, Florida, which had become a hotspot for reporters and fans to watch the Tigers in spring training for the 1935 baseball season. Okay. If you know Lakeland, you know Munn Park. And if you don't, you are entitled to an explanation. It is a little plot of land in the heart of the city consisting of a few transplanted palm trees, some oaks which haven't been transplanted, and a thicket of benches and tables. Except when it rains, which is almost never, Munn Park is densely populated with checker players, euchre, pitch, bridge, and every kind of card game. I wouldn't be surprised if a little poker and 3-card monte isn't pulled off there now and then. A Stuss game probably wouldn't get far. It is too full of action, and the inhabitants of Munn Park are leisurely in their tastes. Besides, few of them have any capital, which I am told is needed for Stuss and such games. So Munn Park habitués have an abundance of one thing, however, time. Every card and checker game has a dozen or so patient kibitzers who will wait from sunup until dark for a chance at a vacant chair in a game. Many wait in vain, a real Munn Parker being very reluctant to give up a chair on any pretext. Spending the greater part of your time in Munn Park is regarded as not quite respectable and is something of a public scandal. The well-bred ladies of the town avoid Munn Park, and it is determined loafers sometimes are the subject of sermons in Lakeland's countless churches. The subject of sermons. They're using them as an example, like little people in Munn Park. The nearest approach to vigorous activity in Munn Park is horseshoe pitching, but the courts are idle most of the time. After a game or two, the contestants usually are so exhausted that they hunt up a bench and have to rest for hours before they're able to shuffle a pack of playing cards. They waste no time. Talking about Newell coming. It was into this open-air poor man's club we wandered the other day, drowned by a flutter of activity utterly foreign to Munn Park and its inhabitants. We discovered that checker champ Banks was the cause of the commotion. He was on his way to St. Petersburg, Florida for a big checker shindig and just happened by. As it turned out, it wasn't his first visit, and he had a dozen challenges in no time. Banks unshucked his own checkerboards and patented non-skid checkers out of a voluminous briefcase and arranged a simultaneous contest with all comers. As a simultaneous contest, well, he played anybody that came up, all of them and everybody.
Start now.
As a bid for our personal interest, he offered to do it blindfolded. This couldn't be accomplished because nobody in Munn Park, not even Banks or your correspondent, could provide a clean handkerchief. So Mr. Banks just turned his back on the tables, buried his face in his hands, and called his shots from there. So he turned his back on the tables and told him where he was moving. He did play blindfolded, but he played without looking at the table.
Yeah.
And so he says, so Mr. Banks just turned his back on the tables, buried his face in his hands, and called his shots from there. A couple of natives who could watch him without getting up or changing position consented to stand guard over the checker champ so he wouldn't peek. I watched him too, and he didn't. Checker champ Banks won all his matches, although I didn't stay to the finish. As a show, it probably was thrilling enough, but Munn Park's adversity to standing, even to see its best checkers players licked by an expert, kept the attendance down to those who sat at the checker tables. So he shows up. I want to do a scene in a movie where Newell shows up in the park with, just doing blindfold checkers. I would love to see that in a movie.
Blindfolded checkers. He's got to be smoking while he does it too.
Oh, dude, this guy.
He may not have been a smoker, but he should be smoking while he does it. I don't know why, but he just should be.
I think they all smoke back then.
Yeah. That was sort of the thing. Oh my God.
So this is so Newell finds a way, man. He shows up, he just got in the Detroit Times.
Believe it or not.
Guy just got in the Detroit Times. Spring training Tigers. This is the hottest ticket in town is to talk about the Tigers. And they got a freaking 1,000, whatever it is, 800 page article or 800 word article.
Yeah.
Talking about Newell Banks, checkers champion, So anyways, you brought that picture. It was pretty cool. It's he made it into the Ripley's Believe It or Not. And that's a blip of the stuff he did. I can read off his a lot of his credentials. I don't even have them all on here. Every time you look into you type his name into a Google search, a bunch more stuff comes up. I mean, it's tough to even track it all down.
So he played 75 games of checkers, 25 games of chess, and 6 games of those were blindfolded checkers in 4 hours.
Yeah, simultaneously.
100. So he played 106 games in 4 hours and only lost one.
and only lost one
six
of those.
Six of them he was blindfolded for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's to say that's just one little fact. I'm going to read off some of the facts here because there's no way I'm going to remember all these. So I have to just read it down. Let's see right here. So right here.
Who's this Motley Trio?
What's that?
Who's the Motley Trio?
Oh, that's this. It's an old picture of Newell. He's in the left. I thought it was kind of a cool picture.
Yeah.
The 1916 of him. They're playing checkers. There's like a referee sitting there, like like refereeing a game of checkers, I guess.
Well, you should have a whistle.
Yeah. So
when do you blow? When do you blow a whistle?
I don't think checkers? I don't think that's necessary. It's like it is and we're not even. I'm not even trying to make fun of it. Because when you're actually
I'm desperately trying to make.
No, you're not. We're showing reverence. Show some respect, Jamie.
I am. No, I'm astounded. I'm amazed.
No, because when you dive into, when I was like, I was like doing a little bit of, just refreshing my memory today before I came to the show, reading some internet articles.
Crap.
But the people that are into this, man, they're really into it.
Oh, yeah.
They're really into it. Like, look at these guys. That picture that kind of shows it. These guys are suited up. They're sitting at this little table, and they got a referee there who looks intent on arbitrating this.
Yes.
This, like, he's not letting one like dispute or one disputed move or whatever pass his watchful gaze. This guy is studying the game. So
here's he's holding a pistol at him.
Well, he's
not
like
the starting gun.
He's not letting him screw around. So let me just read a couple of things, just a couple of blurbs here. So Mr. Banks, so this is out of his own excerpt out of his own biography in his book, World Champion Checkers Match. So Mr. Banks has traveled over 1 million miles in the past 45 years and played 600,000 checkers and chess games. During this time, he has played over 80,000 blindfold games, which is a number that probably exceeds more than that of any three blindfold players combined in the past. So that's just like how many he did.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's another one. It says, born in 1887, Newell Banks would become a child prodigy. He first played checkers blindfolded at Detroit and Chess and Checker Club at the age of 7. He would defeat Hugh Henderson in 1909 for the National Checkers Championship. In 1935, he was the world champion of the two-move opening style of checkers, and according to Burt Walker's article 30 in December 12, 1934, holds a dozen or more other titles at checkers. He also wrote extensively. Okay, there's those two little blurbs. I've just got a bunch of little snobs, but there's whole list. Like, he's got a Wikipedia page with a ton of different stuff on him.
Mm-hmm.
So where's this one here? It says, he said that in an exhibition at the Tuller Hotel in Detroit in 1932, he set the world's championship speed record by simultaneously playing. We already just saw this in the Ripley's, believe it or not, 75 games of checkers, 25 games of checkers. We just read that. And then in 1933 at Convention Hall in Detroit, Newell Banks set a blindfold speed record by winning 61 games with one draw and no losses in under 4 hours. Also in 1933 at the Century of Progress in Chicago, he put on one of his most famous blindfold exhibitions by playing 140 checkers games at the same time, winning 133 of the games and drawing 7. This exhibition took place in 2 hours and 25 minutes, which averaged out to an astonishing 1 move per second. It's just ridiculous. Like, this guy's just got, 25 right there. I mean, just the basic fact, 25 years as a checkers champion.
Yeah.
And then he's part of the 1935 City of Champions.
Is he just barking orders for, hey, move this here, move that there, move that
Maybe
there,
we should have broadened the search out to blindfold checkers players. We can see how they're doing it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, how do you do it? Yeah. I mean, he's got a book on how to do it, but I mean, you're just like, where did you move? And the guy's like, I moved 2 spaces to the right, or like, okay, I want my guy to move this way. Like, I mean, it's your brain's got to be like a computer processor to be able to know that kind of information.
Yeah, it just
how do you do a blindfold? That's me. But I mean, like, I want to show this guy in a movie. Like, he's gonna be like the Karate Kid. He's gonna like blindfold himself. Just be crushing people at Munn Park in the Tiger Spring training segment.
So there's blindfold chess too. I'm not getting videos.
There's no videos of it. Maybe it just stopped being a thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're yeah.
It might have just stopped being a thing because I mean, because nowadays checkers is looked as just like a kid's game.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've seen, I've never heard of like these big like checkers circuits. But when you're reading some of these articles, at least from the people that are into this game, that I guess, because he went to Europe too. He went to Great Britain to play. There was some tournament out there, and they call it droughts.
Okay.
Out there they call it droughts, and so which sounds way more, I guess, professional than checkers. But he. Like I said, I read this segment where he was talking about like strategy for checkers versus chess, and he's like, you know, and the way that he's talking about chess is checkers. He's like, you know, we think of chess as being this like massively strategic game, which of course it is. And he's talking about, I mean, he's like I say, he's good at chess too, and he actually he even said that he likes chess better than checkers.
Yeah,
but he just wasn't the literally number one guy in the world at chess. He was like top 10. But he's talking about checkers. He's like, checkers is a crazy strategic game. Like, I mean, he's like breaking down all these different concepts. I don't understand any of that stuff, but again, bring it up the caboose on the City of Champions season.
Oh my gosh.
Even if there's somebody that's like a chess champion, right? Like if it's checkers, forget about it. Right. If it's checkers, forget about it. But if it's a chess,
unstoppable.
But if it's a chess champion, right? If they're like, well, we got a chess champion too. We got a checkers guy. And then like, this is the final straw is you got to trust Newell to play a game of chess. I'm still going Newell in the chess game.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get like Newell, you're our last hope. They've got 32 championships in every sport. They've tied everything. You are our last guy. You got to, so he's like, so the guy that he plays, imagine the guy beats him at chess, right? Because Newell's top 10, but he's not number one.
Right.
And then he's like, don't worry. I got him at checkers.
I got him at checkers.
And then imagine this, right? The City of Champions title comes down, right? After 32 championships, a World Series, Super Bowl, NFL championship, Stanley Cup, boxing, name the sport, all the way down the list. In the final finale between two cities comes down to a game of checkers.
Yeah.
For like a kid's game to decide who has the greatest season of all time. It comes down to a game of checkers. And again, if that's the case, Newell Banks I'm taking Newell over anybody. I don't care what century they're in. So that's I think the Detroit's claim as the City of Champions will remain secure.
Safe.
It's safe in the hands of Newell Banks as the final obstacle in that, in any other city's claim.
It's just, talk about Detroit versus everybody.
Yeah.
It would take the entire, every other city besides Detroit putting forth everything collectively.
Yeah.
In a year. Yeah. To match it.
And if they even did it, because Detroit might claim one or two of those championships in the meantime.
Yeah.
And to ruin their party.
Yeah.
But I mean, but the thing about it is it wouldn't be straight 1 for 1. They'd have to match up against these. And we've already demonstrated. Where would you, going all the way back to Garwood, where are you going to find anybody that matches Garwood ever in the history of any of speedball racing or anything? Or again, you got to go up against the Stroh's bowling team. One of the most legendary aggregations of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, it just goes on. We don't need to rehash every single guy, but I mean, I think the point has been made, especially when we're talking about the final hurdle to overcome. Like, that other city's like, man, we got him in 32 championships, but the last one is going to be the biggest. Checkers. They're gonna be like, what do you mean? What's the sport? And they're like, checkers. Like, God, they got Newell Banks. We got to face Newell Banks. So Newell Banks is the final guarantee of Detroit's eternal supremacy for the greatest season in the history of American sport.
It's mind-boggling that the depth and just the uniqueness of all these characters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could, like I said, there's so much more on him. I'm not an expert. If you ever hear somebody that's in like a checkers, like a serious checkers player, and they've never heard of Newell, or anybody has any deep dive information that they want to bring, I'm sure there's a ton that we're not even. I mean, this is just a very cursory, aerial view of him.
Well, the name's not unfamiliar.
No,
from the checkers guides that he had his hands in. It's that from checker. I remember that name from those.
It just sounds barely. Yeah, but again, the fact that he's a Detroiter, he's like, you know, it's just it's astonishing, you know. And I've always, and whenever I was doing books, like selling books on the road and that, I'd always be like, he was always my guy. I was like, it was always part of my pitch. I'd always say, from the Tigers, Lions, Red Wings, all the way down to Newell Banks, the world champion checkers player. Detroit won everything, right? You know, that was part of my pitch.
Right.
Was involving Newell Banks.
He was
my A to
Z.
Z. He's always been my A to Z. So that's why I was
your Omega.
That's how he was. That's how I put him in the book too. Is my Z in this book too. It is like the exclamation point on the point, you know, on the point being made, which is that no city in the history, no city's ever had a season like Detroit had in 1935, and nor will any season ever have a city.
Yep.
I was talking to somebody today, and I was telling him, I sold a book to a guy on over the phone today, and I was telling him, like, it just reminded me, because I you know, every time it seems like another city is going to win 3 championships, which hasn't happened again at all, let alone their first championships. But every once in a while, a city gets close. Usually, it's Boston's got close a couple times, so that's usually when somebody calls. But I get a call from like a newspaper reporter or something, right? And they want a quote from a guy who's, you know, focused on Detroit City Champions. My name pops up all over the internet for it. And so, like, the guy from, it was most recently, it was like 2-3 years ago, and the Boston Bruins were headed. They were in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think it was the Red Sox who won the World Series and the Patriots who won the Super Bowl. Yeah. And so the Bruins, Boston Bruins in hockey, were like a couple games away from winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And there's a guy from the Boston Globe calls me up, and he's like, you know, what do you got to say about, you know, Detroit not, you know, like Boston being city of champions or whatever. And I was like, I told him, honestly, you know, it's a great accomplishment. Nobody's done it since. I go, if anything, I'm like, first of all, nobody will ever match what Detroit did in 1935. I mean, it's bigger than just the 3 teams, you know, I mean, that's the headliner. But I go, and second of all, this subject is so starved for attention. I mean, it's non-existent. This is one of the great, I mean, you could make a case that this is one of, if not the greatest sports story of all time. I mean, it's taken us 107 episodes to basically do a cursory overview. That this is bigger than that, and that this subject is so starved for attention that the fact that he's calling me up to ask me this question, that if another city actually did win 3 championships, it would actually bring attention to what Detroit did in 1935, which would almost be worth it, you know, for another city to win 3 championships if that's what it takes to get a little blurb in an article to let people know it even existed, it ever even happened. You know, and so, like, you know, we sit there and the most relevant time ever, usually every year, is during the Lions Thanksgiving game. Yeah, in the Lions, we playing Thanksgiving, and the announcer will go, the Lions first played a Thanksgiving game in 1934 when they first moved to the city, and it's like, you know, when they first moved from Portsmouth, Ohio. And that's like it. Like, as soon as they say that, like, all of our Portsmouth friends start texting, you know, like, they're like, hey, Charles, did you hear they just mentioned Portsmouth on the Lions game? And they usually cut it off from there. It's like, how about you go one step further, take it, 1 second further, and say, and then the very next year in 35, they won their first championship alongside the Tigers and Red Wings. Like, that's what's so crazy is that the fact that they had their first Thanksgiving in, you know, game in Detroit in 1934 in their first year.
They jump right to the 50s.
Yeah, but they don't even, well, I mean, they just go right back to broadcasting the game. Yeah. Because what I'm saying is it's like, imagine this, right? You got the announcer says, in 1934, the Lions played their first game, the first Thanksgiving game, and they had just moved from Portsmouth. That's a mildly interesting fact, right? The listener's like, okay, that's going to fill in some time while I'm watching the game. And then the announcer follows that with an and by the way, the very next year after that, 1 year later, the Lions won their first NFL championship, and alongside the Tigers and Red Wings first championships as well, to form the background of one of the headliners of the greatest season in the history of American sport. You know what I mean? Like, one more step. One more little baby step, and you've got yourself a fantastic stat, you know, to broadcast to your fans. Their fans are going, man, that, you know, like, I know they're trying to fill a little time because they're like, there's a kickoff or something happening. Yeah. But that was the greatest, time filler stat I've ever heard. They'd be blowing people's minds with that fact. And instead, like I said, they just go, well, we don't want to go too far into the thing. We're just going to leave it at 34. It's like, it's every year, you're sitting there going, come on, every year. It's our special time of year. We get to hear one little bit on the 34 Lions. And then they just go, well, we don't want to talk about anything else after that. It's a one moment of relevance and it passes by and they wait for another year to hear it for them. But
it's been a great ride, man. 107 episodes, 33 champions. But there's more to talk about. There's some of the Dispute of the Pigeon one. We should talk about some.
We can do that. I think we're we're going to talk about how the format that we want to do for next for the new year and all this. Yeah. And I think that
some more of the story that we need to share.
I think that we're probably going to start out by just jumping around a little bit. Yeah. We're going to find some stuff that we didn't really cover in the first one. Some because the listeners have got a pretty nice overview of all this different stuff. And we can dive into players, some of these Red Wings players. We just, mention their name or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the Red Wings players being touched on. What I was talking to you about doing, which I really want to do, is a long form history of the Tigers, which we may even go beyond and we still have to wrap up with some of the championships. Maybe we'll talk.
We didn't do the championship games.
No, maybe we'll lead up to Champions Day next year with a couple the show.
Because we left the 3 championship games.
Yeah, we never talked about the championships. There's 107 episodes. We didn't cover the actual championships. Man, we blew it. We blew it. It's all meant for nothing. We blew it.
We missed our chance.
The main headliners, we didn't talk about their chance. No, because we wanted to do them.
We did that on purpose
because we want to, in order to bring it all together.
I think
you want to hear them back to back. You want to hear
right around Champions Day. So we'll do those final games and the final summations of the big 3. Right around Champions Day.
Yeah, and I want to, and we did a long form history on the Lions. We did a long form history on the Red Wings. I want to do a long form history on the Tigers.
Okay,
and we might even do a segment that even goes beyond the 35 Tigers, because there's some really interesting stuff that happened to the Tigers in the 1950s.
Cool.
And even before the world, even after 35, like between 35 and the leading up to World War II, was kind of an interesting time too. So there's we're going to be getting into it the new year. We'll have a little more focus. I have to talk a little bit more about exactly some of the refined.
More to come
for sure.
We're at 33, but we're circling the wagons. We're circling back. And there's a lot more to come. So make sure you subscribe wherever you're at right now. Go down to the subscribe button, follow this, add it, collect, whatever the proper terminology for the proper app that you're in. And so collect, like, subscribe. Comments are always fun.
Yeah.
And all those things. Do all the podcast things in all the podcast places. cityofchampions.com.
Are we gonna do a baseball show after this?
Do
you mind?
Maybe.
Mind sitting through 10 minutes of it? Well, because I want to tell the listener now there's live to jump onto the baseball show.
Sure. Baseball show.
Baseball Revolution.
All right.
After that, coming right after this.
At 10 minutes.
Come in 10
minutes.
minutes.
Should I set an egg timer on that?
No.
Okay.
So it'll be in about 10 minutes. Time is not one of our best attributes in this show.
All right.
Neither Jamie nor mine.
All right.
But it'll be in roughly 10 minutes. We're gonna be jump back. I'm gonna do a little 15-minute little wrap up for my. How many episodes have I done on the baseball show? 5 or something? 3. No, 3. I've done 4 or 5. 3. That's it.
3.
Okay. Well, so I'm gonna wrap up my 3 episode season after this.
All right. So so thanks for being with us, and stick around because lots more to come with Detroit City of Champions.